Welcome everybody to our first Friday conversation. I'll stop sharing so we can all see each other a bit better. I'm James from Project Edward, and I'm very pleased to have this conversation this morning with Chris Spinks, Managing Director of Westcotec, a Norfolk-based employee-owned company specialising in the design, manufacture and installation of intelligent traffic safety and smart city equipment. Chris joined Westcotec's sales team in 2016 after a 30-year policing career with Norfolk and Suffolk Constabularies, where he reached the rank of Chief Inspector and headed roads policing and firearms operations. Chris became Managing Director of Westcotec in 2018, overseeing the company's transition to employee ownership and its subsequent growth. He also serves on the Norfolk Chambers of Commerce Board. Chris, hello, welcome. How are things?
Morning, very good, thank you. On a horrible morning up here or across here or down here in Norfolk, depending on where the audience are from.
Well, look, let's talk about rural roads. We're going to look at smart rural roadside technology, but just give us some idea, from your police and your more recent commercial experience, what are the issues that you're seeing and that we can talk about and then take a look at applying technological solutions?
Well, as I'm sure our audience is fully aware, the biggest proportion of KSIs, killed in serious injury collisions, do take part on the sort of higher speed A and better quality B roads in rural areas. And the biggest, most obvious reasoning for that is that there is no separation between the direction of travel of the vehicles, and the road surface is not as good. The infrastructure is not as good. There's any number of other hazards and obstacles. And I think probably not in terms of mileage, but certainly in terms of the amounts of time that they're on those roads, they are the most common and the most likely to have things thrown at you. Obviously, being in Norfolk, we have a huge proportion of those sort of roads, and that's everything from roadside foliage in the road to wildlife to huge agricultural vehicles round corners. And if people aren't concentrating and aren't on their A game when it comes to driving and expecting the unexpected, then the outcome is inevitable, unfortunately.
We'll carry on looking at the technology. Just what I should say to everybody, you should find that your camera works and your microphone works, and so we hope to bring you in if you have a question or you'd like to raise a point to discuss with Chris. So we'll try and do that in an orderly manner. We're recording this, by the way, and so I'm going to just talk to Chris for sort of 5-10 minutes, and then we'll welcome your contribution. And please use the chat function if that helps, but also raise your hand, and we'll try and make sure we keep an eye on who wants to say something. Okay, Chris, how do you see smart rural roadside technology like complementing traditional engineering measures rather than competing with them? I mean, like, we've got like realignments, barriers, junction improvements. What can smart technology do to support that?
Well, the bottom line, as always, is cost effectiveness. All of those things you mentioned is hard engineering. It's expensive, it's disruptive to the network and to the travelling public. Whereas a lot of the products that not only Westcotec but other people within our sector can produce is actually a lot less impactful on the roadside. It is above ground detection in lots of ways, which means that there is no digging up the road, there is no need to cross over the carriageways for power, and it is ridiculously more cost effective. For example, we recently won an award, the Highways Award in 2024, for a rural road casualty detection system, which involves thermal detection of vehicles approaching a major road on a minor road. So you identify a collision hotspot, be it a staggered crossroads, a T-junction or traditional crossroads, put the equipment in place. So you have a thermal detector with a virtual zone on the minor road. Vehicle enters or approaches the junction with the major road, activates the thermal camera, which then sends a message to two much larger vehicle activated LED signs, which are very dynamic, and they will then show any vehicles that are on the main road that there is something at the junction. So you will get a big red triangle with the junction warning and a legend underneath, and that's been shown to enormously reduce collisions. Really major hotspots up in the north, which is where we won the award for.
What do you say? You say sort of spectacular reductions, but let's hear that in numbers then. So what sort of were the numbers before that went in, and what's happened since?
Well, we installed this up in Durham, where there had been over a 3 or 4 year period 12 killed and major serious injury collisions on this staggered crossroads. Our equipment was installed, and the subsequent 5 years from installation, there was not a single KSI on that junction. There were some collisions, obviously, but none of those were at the level that there had been before, and the data proved it had been a massive success. And as a result of that, a direct result of that, we've picked up other counties have decided that that's a good idea to put in place, because it is so much more cost effective than trying to redesign a road, which may not actually make any difference. This is about warning the drivers, and as we say, giving the driver an enhanced level of information to make a much better decision. So that can be something as straightforward as a speed threshold sign that activates on the approach to a bend, and if the vehicles are traveling at the designated speed that is decided that threshold should be at, the sign activates again. It's specific to that car, and it will slow the majority of people down. Again, as we all know, there is a small percentage of drivers who will decide to drive in a dangerous manner. They make that behavioural decision, but there's an awful lot more who are what I call absent-minded speeders, if you like, who actually aren't really concentrating on what they're doing, and that level of distraction is getting higher and higher with all the equipment that is on board with a vehicle, and they need to be shaken out of that distracted state and actually given something that is specific to them, telling them to slow down, and that is exactly what ours and other manufacturers' products will do.
And I assume that we're not too far away from signs like that will make a little alarm sound in the cab in case someone's kind of not paying attention and misses the flashing sign that's there for them to get the information. How far are we from that?
Well, we've actually developed a product that does just that. We have displayed it. We've gone from the proof of concept to the actual production of the device, which will, in conjunction with detection equipment again, will give advance warning of somebody standing at a pedestrian crossing. It will give advance warning of a vehicle being over height to go under a low bridge, and also in relation to flood detection. So it will give a verbal warning into the vehicle through the Android Auto that there is an issue ahead. So it will be another layer on top of the visual warning that you get on the side of the road. And let's face it, plate signs, a lot of people don't even see them. You can then have the dynamic vehicle activated sign with the illumination specific to the vehicle, and then you will get a warning on the Android Auto screen as well as a verbal warning. And I don't know what else we can do to try and make drivers understand that there's something up ahead.
Okay, let's think about the main types of rural crash configuration you think lend themselves best to vehicle activated signs and intelligent detection.
They are mostly to do with road layout. So as I've spoken about, bends, crossroads, low bridges, floods, that type of thing. But there is, of course, just straightforward inappropriate speed and overtaking, driving too close. Those are all areas that we are looking at. Certainly driving too close to the vehicle in front. We are looking at a device now which will actually measure that distance between the two vehicles, and if there is that is deemed to be too short, then there will be an activation of the sign. Nothing we do at Westcotec is about prosecution. This is all about, as I've said, giving the driver that better level of information. It's what we try to do is, as I said, give that level of information, enhance that level of information, so the driver has no choice really but to at least see it, look at it, and hopefully make that right decision. There are always going to be drivers that we can't get in their head, and those of us on this call who've obviously been involved in enforcement will no doubt have spoken to drivers who don't even know why they did what they did, as you're trying to get them out of a mangled car. that's always going to be a factor. But by and large, the physical layout of the roads, the modifying the behaviour, speed, and identifying hazards up ahead that they can deal with are the main way that we can address these issues, and already are addressing these issues.
Okay, what do you say to the authorities that struggle with revenue funding? I mean, probably all authorities do, but you know, how important is remote management and diagnostics of rural signs to keeping schemes operational and affordable over the long term?
It's all about evaluation. It's all about you know, unfortunately, the bottom line. There is so much competition now for funding. Road safety has quite often suffered from being something that is, well, that's just how it is. And I feel with the new strategy that's come in, there is an increased focus now on trying to make a difference, and we're hopefully getting somewhere towards making people understand that it's just not satisfactory to have the numbers of people that are killed on the roads, and looking at ways we can deal with it. We have over the last few days had conversations with a local authority who are actually looking at the strategy. They are looking at the arms of the strategy, the safer systems in the strategy, and that's what they're using to inform what they're going to be doing over the next 3, 4, 5 years, which is really, really encouraging from our point of view, not just because they're looking to us to support what they're trying to do, but the fact that they are taking that on board. And you know, I really, really hope that will spread further and wider across the country. So it does come down to pounds, shillings and pence across the board. £2.6 million, I think, is the latest figure I've seen about what the cost of a fatal collision is across the agencies. But then it comes down to partnerships, and it comes down to who is going to actually deal with it and whose responsibility is it. And I think we need more, instead of saying, well, that's not me, it's the police, that's not us, it's the health service, etc., that we need to get together. And the biggest things that make a difference, and I said this on the webinar you did about the strategy when it was just launched, is those partnerships and taking on that shared responsibility, because we're all in it for the same reason, which is to get people home safe from their journeys, or get them to where they're going safe. Of course, it's got to come down to money, but we need to have a far more grown-up conversation than trying to say it's not my job.
Let's talk about the strategy, and it sort of emphasizes data-led decisions, doesn't it? So what kind of data can your systems provide from, let's say, rural deployments, and how should that data feed into local safety plans and cases for investment?
Well, the data that is provided is through a cloud-based back office system that connects to any number of our signs. We have almost 18,000 installations up and down the country, which is a huge amount of data, and that is everything from straightforward vehicle counts to speeds, to the time of day, 85th percentile, etc. We also have systems that have a plug into the DVLA, which will not give registered keepers clearly, but that does give types of vehicles, the fuel, the weights, etc., so that again you can look at the demographic of what vehicles are used in particular roads. That information is all there, it's all available, and it can all be remotely collected via the Westcotec asset management system, and people need to make best use of it. I know the work that Agilicis are doing with TomTom and other sources of data as well are making huge differences in giving people the information they need to actually prioritise the interventions. And then that way, I think it should be much better if we're talking about local authorities, national highways and responsible contractors, to put the business cases forward, evidence the business cases, and evaluate the difference that these interventions have made, and that's what's going to keep the bean counters happy at the end of the day.
Chris, thank you. I'm just going to see if anybody would like to say something now. Andrew Curry, you've got your camera on. We met in Bilthwells probably 2 or 3 years ago, wasn't it? Anything you would like to say? Your camera is on. You're very welcome to ask or make a comment. You're muted at the moment, but you can unmute yourself, or you can. Oh, I think he's gone. Perhaps I've scared Andrew away. I'm very sorry. There's someone called Simon Turner External. Hello, Simon Turner External.
Good morning, James. Hi, Chris. That was really
Simon.
Interesting. Thank you for that. Good morning. The bit you were just talking about then, the data thing where you've got 18,000 installations feeding data in. Did you say that's accessible by others, that data?
Yes, it can be. If and we have the product's coming up to 2 years now since it's been launched, which means that the local authorities that have the Westcotec system as part of their package are able to download that data. They're able to process the data as well as manage their assets in terms of fault management, remote configuration, etc. So it puts it all on the desktop or laptop.
Yeah. So where James was asking you for sort of hard facts and figures around the junction installation that you won the award for, is that something authorities can go in and look at? Do you have to have an installation to be part of that? What's the process? Because what I'm trying to get to is, can other people go in and see the impact that those installations have had on collisions locally, and then use that almost like a case study? So will it work there? Will it work in my area?
Well, that would be down to the customer, if you like, because once they are subscribed to the system, then the data belongs to them. So
Right.
it would be for them to release the data, not for us. We don't hold that data.
Right.
That is, I mean, we can obviously access it because we have to, monitor the systems, but it belongs to the customer. So I mean, I can't see there'd be any reason why that if an interested party wanted to say, well, I want to put one of these in my local authority, can you show me how that worked? Then I'm sure that wouldn't be an issue. But it isn't something you can just log into,
Right.
Whatever and get hold of.
Right. So I'm just thinking that's something that, as Project Edward, we could raise awareness of that and try and encourage these conversations between local authorities to talk to each other about what's been successful in their area, and they'd be able to see actual case studies of our collisions, our casualties were at such a level, and here's the installation we put in, and it's reduced it to such another thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Brilliant. All right. Let's pick up on that offline, but I think that's a really interesting idea. Thanks for that, Chris.
Thanks, Simon.
Thank you, Chris. May I bring in Alan Hiscox? You should find your microphone is on, and you're free to talk to Chris Spinks. Hello, Alan.
Hello, James. Hello, Chris.
Hi,
Yes,
Alan.
are you missing an overnight bag and a pair of Wellington boots, Alan?
Oh no. Yes, indeed. Hey, guess what my question is going to be about? Anyway, Chris.
Horses.
Correct. Chris, I'm right in thinking that Westcotec put a sign in Lambourne, where obviously there's lots of horses there. What was the whole process for that? I mean, obviously there was evidence that horses were, when they were crossing the road, received quite a lot of near misses. But I've seen it. It's great, and I wish we could get more in and around where horses have to cross roads. But what was the whole process to get that, please?
Well, you'll be pleased to know that we're doing a similar system, if it's not in already, in Newmarket.
Hey.
Yeah, through the Jockey Club. So yeah, it was through the Jockey Club. We were approached because of the issues that you've highlighted, and we developed a scheme where the jockeys could activate the signs as they approach the road, and the anecdotal evidence is that it's made a huge difference in relation to the thing, and it's a similar thing to the collision avoidance system. What happens is that there is much more credibility attached to that sign, because the public realise, the ones that obviously travel that road regularly, they realise that when the signs come on, something's happening, and so it actually triggers something in their mind to deal with it, as opposed to going past a plate sign that they see every day, and more often than not there's nothing there, whether it be a horse, whether it be a vehicle at the junction or whatever. And that was really straightforward. We had to modify the activation system because we started off with a kind of a flexible switch that the riders could hit with a crop, but they were hitting it so hard they broke that several times, because the idea was that they didn't have to put the horse too close to the activation, because I don't know anything about horses, but I do know that race horses are a little bit flighty at times. So what we then had to do was we altered it so that the activation button came out on an arm, and it was a big red button that they could just press as they walk past, which that's the kind of stuff that we love doing, because we are able to to design and manufacture bespoke equipment, we can do those kind of one-off things, which keeps the designers on their toes, and we're able to completely deal with what the customer requires.
Well, that's great news. That Newmarket. I'll have to get up to Newmarket, and are they in yet, or?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but
Right,
I know
okay.
we've been several site visits and to and from. I think there may be just a couple of fine tuning, but I'll let you know offline
Yeah.
what's going on, and then because that's not far away from us, so that'd be good to see you.
Yeah. No, and I wish more local authorities would look at that as especially with bridleway crossings, where there's vegetation around. So yeah, thanks very much for your help, Chris.
No worries.
Brilliant. There's a few questions in the chat I'm going to put your way, Chris, from John Furness. Will the detection system, I guess this is the one in Durham that we were just talking about, will it pick up on road users on two wheels?
Absolutely. We have pedestrian detectors, we have cycle detectors, motorcycle detectors. The thermal detection picks up the heat of a signature within that zone, so it definitely will.
Matthew Atkinson asks, he says, looking at budgetary planning, the measures in Durham cost £13,000. How many signs of measures did that cover, and was there any ongoing maintenance fee in addition to the initial outlay?
All of our fixed installations have a 6-year warranty. We will deal with any issues. The signs are relatively maintenance free. They don't need calibration in terms of detection, and so for the first 6 years there is no fees at all. We deal with everything, and we are able for a small fee to extend that warranty to 10 years. But as far as I'm aware, we've not had to go back to that site, and it's been there for some considerable time, well over the 6 years.
Elizabeth Johnson, can the Westcotec system be added into an existing sign that you provided a few years ago? And explain
yes, it can.
how.
It's absolutely can. It is a relatively simple process for us to add the hardware and the necessary software. It is just a standalone addition. We haven't found a sign yet that it won't interact with. So the whole design brief was that we had something that could be retrofitted.
Thank you very much. Well, please keep your questions coming, folks. I'll try and monitor the chat, or simply put your hand up, because you are more than welcome to put a question to Chris. Chris, let's move away from kind of collisions based on intersecting trajectories and just think about flooding and extreme weather on rural networks, because that's on the increase. Is that on your radar? And what sort of early flood alert and similar systems are you looking at?
Well, we have a few of those up and down the country. Some near us in the Fens, which is a joint operation between Cambridgeshire and Norfolk county councils, and that is it's probably quite unique in relation to the Fens. There is an area where the Environment Agency deliberately flood a road to alleviate some of the drainage around that area, and so that meant an enormous diversion for all traffic because the road was just closed. End of. And obviously if you did decide to go through that road closure and something happened within it, then there's every chance your insurance would be negated. So what we've done is, in conjunction with them, we've put in a system that actually measures the depth of the flood at the deepest point, and then we'll measure and we'll display that flood depth onto signs on the approach roads, so the driver can make a decision. So clearly a tractor or maybe a truck or a 4x4 would be able to go through, and certainly for a farmer, not having to go round a diversion that would have added 45 minutes to the journey is a massive difference for them. That is also remotely monitored. That also allows the local authority to see the depth of the flood without having to send someone out in the waders to go into the middle and see whether they're going to close the road or not, or put the measures in place. We also have a similar system in Leicestershire, at an appropriately named place called Slash Lane in Leicestershire, where there is regular flooding under a bridge, and 2 or 3 other local authorities are now looking at that. Leicestershire are looking at some more installations, I understand, and so again, it's that, as I go back to, it's that giving drivers an enhanced level of information to make a better decision, i.e., can I go through that or not? And if you can, and you are aware of the fording depth of your vehicle and you come out the other side, then happy days. But you've been given the information to make the decision.
Are you getting any data on how successful that is, that the people are kind of thinking, okay, yes, I'm going to be prudent and turn back, and the number of extrications or rescues or recoveries of stranded, flooded vehicles has dropped?
Well, I haven't done any figures about that. What I do know is we haven't been told that someone's gone through there and ignored the signs and therefore they're not effective. So I'm kind of going with the no news is good news. But I'm not 100% certain that local authorities would even measure that anyway. But you know, the anecdotal evidence is that they're successful in the locations that they're put into.
Okay, now let's think. Here are some options. Evidence of casualty reduction, operational savings, public acceptability, or alignment with national strategic priorities. What persuades an authority most when you're demonstrating a system from all those kind of options?
That's a really good question, and it's.
Thank you, Chris.
I mean, as you're welcome. It's not a cop out, but it is. I think it's a mixture of all of those. As you know, and a lot of people on the call will know, the different areas that are involved in the consultation and the decision-making process around even something as straightforward as a £4,000 or £5,000 speed sign have different priorities. I, as an ex roads policing officer and someone who's really passionate about casualty reduction, in an ideal world, it would be, well, if this is going to stop one person being killed or seriously injured, then it's got to be worth the expenditure. I'm not naive enough to think that that is all there is to it, and there are those competing demands. What we try to do is we try to blend all of those and try and satisfy each of those demands as to, well, yeah, it's going to be implemented in a lot quicker than having to do hard engineering. There's far less hoops to jump through in terms of cost. The cost itself of implementation and maintenance is a lot less, and this is the end result. Safer roads, less casualties, or eradicating them altogether, as we've almost done on that crossroads in Durham, and the system we have in Heathrow as well has almost eradicated the collisions. The biggest challenge that I have is to get out there the fact that this stuff is available. And I find it incredibly frustrating when you talk to engineers, scheme designers, and they're like, oh, I didn't know you did that. We try really, really hard to, as a business, obviously, we have to make a profit to survive, to sell our products. But I believe that the products are really, really valuable. It's ethical. It's all made in Britain. There's a lot of reasons why Westcotec's products, and this isn't a sales pitch, but why people should use them. But it's about making sure they understand what's there and what's available. And it's really easy to install and maintain. And the case studies are there. Simon talked about councils talking to each other to understand the benefits of the schemes. Well, we have any number of case studies with stuff that we have done, and we're just looking for people within these scheme designs, within local authorities, to actually just think a little bit outside the box and say, yeah, that's going to work, I'll go with that. And then you find when someone does, then that others will follow. And I know that from my time in the police. There's very rarely will one police force stand up and try something, but as soon as they do and is successful, everyone else is like, oh, that's a good idea, we'll do that. And we're constantly trying to push that envelope to get local authorities to have the confidence to give these things a go. We offer trials, we evidence everything that we've done, we have really lengthy testing processes, and I think we are getting there. I certainly feel we are getting there in terms of technology acceptance.
Do you think current national performance indicators and reporting frameworks properly capture the benefits of rural smart tech schemes, or are we still too focused on the kind of collision numbers that we get, the kind of after the fact stuff that we're all trying to reduce and minimize through working under the safe system where we're preventing things from happening in the first place?
I think it's always one of the things I've always struggled with is we have any number of interventions and you try all of them at once, so it's very difficult to know which of those ones has made the most difference, which ones didn't make much difference. It's really, really difficult to do that. Now, there are things that we're working on. in relation to trying to predict and identify where resource needs to be put in. So, for example, we're looking at the possibility of some sort of sound activated device that would pick up near misses. So if you get bumps, or you get them, the tyre noise from vehicles breaking traction with the road, that would identify those, maybe trigger a camera for a short video recording, a bit like a dash cam on the side of the road, so that it would identify some of those spots before that time happens, because those near misses don't get reported. A lot of damage only collisions don't get reported, so there's a huge dent in the number of the accuracy of collision reporting before, as you say, it's too late. And we do report those, and we have to rely on those after the fact figures, because that's the stuff we know about. We don't get to know about all of the other bits and pieces. So that's something that I think we would be able to use going forward, and to be much more predictable about where collisions might happen. It's quite obvious to people who've been working with it for a long time, that you can look at a piece of road and you think, well, that's likely to be where drivers are going to lose control, or where they're going to not have visibility to pull out of a junction properly because of vegetation or road signs or whatever. But there's any number of other factors on a road that may well get wet, or it may get icy at a particular time of the year when other areas don't. It might be shaded by vegetation. I mean, we all probably know areas like that where you think, oh well, it's nearly freezing, so it's bound to be below on that particular road. So we're now offering for as a free option in our signs, automatic temperature detection. So if you have a speed sign that will say on a 60-mile-an-hour stretch of road, it might activate the bend slow down sign at 50 because it's too fast, or 40 because it's too fast for the bend. If it's below a certain temperature threshold, that slow down and bend sign would come on at a lower speed, or if it's heavy rain or whatever. So it will actually intelligently change the threshold of the activation to hopefully again prevent collisions, and that would have to be based on, at the moment, anecdotal evidence. But hopefully if this near miss stuff can come online, then we might have a bit more information around evaluating and looking at projects that would make a difference.
Brilliant, Chris. We'll start to wrap up and tie up a few loose ends. Let's kind of look ahead. What's in your immediate in-tray, topics that you're dealing with and things that are on your agenda, and sort of looking further ahead, maybe 5-10 years ahead, where are we heading? What do you want in terms of government guidance or standards that might accelerate the kind of responsible deployment of intelligent warning systems on rural roads? So that's quite a big question, isn't it?
That is quite a big question. Thanks.
A lot to expect of you at this time of the Friday morning.
I mean, strategically, I want the momentum that's kind of started, I feel, and hopefully other people agree with the strategy. We need to just keep building on that momentum and keep the road safety agenda in everybody's face. It's so important that we change the mindset of a lot of people. The whole driver behaviour piece is massive, and I find that absolutely fascinating, but I have no idea how it's ever going to be addressed. Going forward in terms of technology, vehicle automation is on the horizon. We're certainly looking, and have been looking at what's called V2X, which is vehicle to infrastructure. We've been looking at that for the last 5 or 6 years, and that's led to the products I mentioned earlier. And we're now looking to take that even further. We're looking at a much more specific overheight type thing, where our devices would measure the height of a vehicle coming off a depot. That vehicle would be identified, and the height would be stored in the cloud. And then as the vehicle approached, a potential bridge strike area, then there would be a suitable detector there, which would identify the vehicle. It would know the height of that vehicle. So if it was overheight, that would be a specific warning in the cab for that one driver. And I think that is something that initially with the overheight, but then rolling out to other areas as well of road safety, could be massive. Because we've got to do something about distraction, and everybody is talking about, well, taking the stuff out of the vehicles as a possibility, but actually we're looking at it from the point of the stuff is there. what do we do to grab the driver's attention? And that particular individual warning that we're looking at with overheight at the moment, but could be other areas too, would I feel help to address that massive distraction issue. And we're always looking forward at what technology is available, enhancements around ANPR, vehicle identification, etc., etc. So we're fortunate being a small enough company to be agile. Got some really clever people at work here, so it is always a case of moving your horizon a bit further down the road, and we're in a position where we're able, without having to go through focus groups and working parties and return on investment, we can have a go at stuff, and get a product to a proof of concept within a matter of weeks.
All right, well, look, there's more. Oh, Helen Oldroyd is waiting in the lobby. I will admit Helen straight away. In the meantime, Chris, I've sort of got one more question. Imagine you've got the roads minister on this call, which sadly we haven't. But if you could ask for one concrete commitment that might just make a difference for like rural road safety and smart technology, what would you be asking for?
I would ask that the roads minister tries to take the brakes off research and development and deployment and testing of new signs, new products, new areas, and the Home Office type approval. I know things have to be absolutely, watertight in relation to prosecution, but there's an awful lot of stuff there that doesn't have to be prosecution level to be valuable and to make a difference. And the amount of bureaucracy and just mind-numbingly dull things we have to go through to try and get something accepted and keep up with technology. Don't lag behind, and then we all have to wait for years before something is adopted.
Thank you. There's a few comments that we'll just whiz through, and I'm going to invite Simon Turner back on, because you know what I'm like, Simon. If you're there, I don't want to be overly enthusiastic about things. So
why?
You're just a kind of helping out, making sure that it just we round this off properly. There's some comments then. So Sharon Angus Crawshaw, a comment: the police and crime commissioners will have road safety as a priority, and town and parish councils are keen to reduce issues on their roads, primarily speeding. A good idea would be to contact the National Association of Local Councils to see if information can be shared with local councils. That's something we can take with Chris and talk about, Simon, I'm thinking.
Yeah, well, I think that's what was going on in my mind from a Project Edward perspective for later on in the year. Is to really try and encourage these conversations.
And it's not the one I'm going to get work on next week.
Oh, hello, somebody's got their microphone on and having an external conversation, I think. There we are. I think that's gone.
I think as a group, we need to really try and encourage collaboration between authorities over the year and try and get people to share the positive experiences they've had with some of these installations. It might be different types of installations as well, but the whole point of Project Edward is to share good practice in a way that encourages others around the country to adopt similar things, and where they might not be aware that a particular challenge they have has been solved in another area. I think it's not just vehicle activated signs, it's other things. The whole point of Project Edward is gathering these examples of good practice and sharing them with everybody else, so they can see, well, that might work in my area. And vehicle activated signs is just a really good example of that. So I think going through the year, all of you on the call, if you've got examples of installations like Chris has been talking about, or any other road safety intervention that you've done locally that you're proud of and has worked, we want to hear about it and we'll promote it. That's what we're here to do.
Well, I'm going to risk exposing my age here, because I was once at a conference in France where they were addressing specific national issues that had been dealt with at a regional basis and therefore could be shared. And it was a waste management conference, and the people of Normandy had come up with a particularly good solution to this waste management problem. I was listening to the conference through an interpreter. who I think knew exactly what he was saying. So taking the kind of the know-how of the people of Normandy to solve this problem, he said, and the English translation was, the problem will be solved by Norman wisdom. Some of you won't know who Norman Wisdom was, but you can look him up. Okay, moving swiftly on, Andrew Curry. Andrew, I'm really sorry that I kind of probably scared you off earlier on, but a really good point here. Before we consider spending on smart tech, basic maintenance of road markings and reflector studs is an issue that needs addressing by many highway authorities. And he puts here that rural roads in Wales are poorly maintained in this respect. Ben Potter, a question to Chris. We've used VAS in rural locations in the past and had issues with solar power solutions not lasting. Has alternate power solutions for rural tech improved recently?
Yes, solar panels are certainly a lot more efficient. I don't know how long ago that was that they had the issues. Wind generation as well. So for more power hungry installations, then we also can add wind generators as well. We use solar power now to prolong the life between charges for batteries on the portable signs that we put in a lot of community areas, and we're always trying out new solar products. We're just trialing one which is, instead of a flat panel, it's actually a 360-degree kind of big tube that fits over the pole, so it's no longer sort of directional. And solar powers use light more now than just pure sunlight. So and we're always looking at new ways. We work with various companies who are producing solar panels to test their products for them and hopefully make them more and more efficient.
Thank you. Vicky Bristow is agreeing with Chris. There's so much good tech out there. When the adoption of these is then stalled in home office red tape and lengthy decisions, oh, it's just popped down. There's more popping in. Where is it? Lengthy decisions. We are missing an opportunity to really achieve good results in terms of saving lives and avoiding serious injuries. So that's a message supporting what you would be saying to the minister to speed up. Thanks, Vicky.
Thank you.
Rachel Catling, a main issue seems to be the Home Office seems to be so focused on financial gain from speed enforcement and not education and safety measures to prevent. There's no budget in our force, and what we have, the Home Office are looking to take. It's a vicious circle. I agree, Chris. The focus should be on saving even one life. Matthew Atkinson, moving on from that question about the VAS, thinking on from that, does the signage have any fault reporting tech built in so we'd get some kind of alert that it wasn't charging or other faults, etc.?
Yes, through the Westcotec system that I mentioned. That's remote fault there. You can also, with solar installations, you can monitor the battery so that you can, if there is a prolonged period of inclement weather, you can actually get ahead of the game. And if the battery is not charging as much as it should do, or is getting near a point where it is come down, then you can monitor that through the remote Westcotec system and intervene ahead of time.
Thank you, Chris. Well, look, I think that can neatly wrap up today's conversation. Many thanks to Chris Spinks from Westcotec for your time.
Thank you.
I am pleased to say that our first Friday conversations will continue through the year, and we will be focusing on some aspect of the SAFE system for each of those conversations. So do check our little newsletters that come through and sign up and take part. It's the whole point of the first Friday is having that opportunity to be seen and heard and to have kind of interesting conversations. So I've really enjoyed today. I'm very grateful to Chris and hope you all have a good day, and we will see you again soon. From me, it's bye-bye, and thanks for tuning in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers. Thanks, Simon. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.